All right, Slick Talkers, we are doing a special episode as I am at the Unique Stays Summit hosted by Ben Wolf, who's also been a guest on the show, with Zach Boozy Cruz, one of our amazing podcasters in Hospitality FM, host of Behind the Stays. And as I'm here at this summit, we've had some really good, interesting conversations. And instead of doing an interview episode this week, I actually want to do an episode repeat from Good Morning Hospitality. So, Good Morning Hospitality is our new show. We go live every Monday morning with Michael Golden, Brandy Canali, my two co hosts, and we have other amazing crew members on that show. But we had a conversation about the expectations of guests and travelers, plus a little bit of the side of Expedia's B2B business, which is really, really fascinating. So, we're reposting the episode here. We want your thoughts. So, your action item before fully listening to this episode is to listen, obviously, but then send me an email, W-I-L, at hospitality.fm is my email, where I want to hear your thoughts and expectations around this conversation that have a broader impact on the industry and maybe some things that we've missed and that we can bring up on the show in the future. So listen to this episode, take some notes. And of course, if you feel inspired or passionate about this topic, send your thoughts our way. So thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate all that you guys do. Thanks for supporting the show. And of course, if you ever want to add another podcast to your list, check out hospitality.fm. And now we're back to the episode on Slick Talk. You're listening to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, a podcast for those who are in and around the hospitality industry who love, live, and breathe what they do. You can join us for candid and unscripted conversations with hospitality experts and founders as we go deeper into their personal stories while they're sharing their triumphs and trials that got them to where they are today. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and you're listening to an episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Now, let's begin. We have some fun kind of topics to discover and stories, but also just kind of another quick disclaimer. September 16th is, of course, a beautiful Monday morning where we will not have a live or pre-recorded episode. And the reason why is because we actually did an episode with Kevin from Marriott Homes and Villas, and we are actually exclusively distributing that episode through email and, of course, through a registered gate, basically, where you have to give us your email to access the video and audio for at least 2 weeks, and then we'll put it onto our public channels in the future. This was part of our kind of plan with Marriott, as we've had a fun partnership with them, and of course, wanted to make sure that we kind of made exclusive content to create a little bit of FOMO and stir it up. So, Monday morning, September 16th, don't tune in to wherever you find the podcast. Actually, grab the link in the show notes. It's a registered link. Register, grab access so you can have unlimited watch hours and listen hours as you want until we release it to the public. So just a quick little announcement there. All right, Slick Talkers, sorry to interrupt. As you know, great partners at Minute have sponsored this episode. They sponsor the show. So every episode is filled with amazing minutes. No pun intended. So if you don't know who Minute is or what they do, we see that we have a lot of new Slick Talkers out there in the world. So one, thank you for tuning into the show. Every listen, every time you hit play means so much to me and to my team. So thank you. But if you are new, Minute is an amazing noise detection device. Not only do they measure noise decibel levels inside of your vacation homes or your hotels, they actually can detect smoke. Not only that, if you're an outdoor kind of a unique stay person or just have an amazing outdoor amenities for your guests, from pools to hot tubs to cookout pads, all the stuff, they have an outdoor sensor that is specifically made for outdoor noise, because I didn't know this, but noise outside and noise inside actually makes a difference. So you don't have to worry about constantly making sure, are people partying at your place? Are the cleaners there? Or like whatever, kind of issue might happen, you can get that peace of mind with Minute at your side. So as you grow, Minute will grow with you. They have an amazing team of support and they have an amazing technology from hardware and the software. When the two marry, it's just a beautiful combination. We use Minute in all of our vacation homes and hotels with our management company, and it's the best decision we've made because we are so dispersed and we are so spread out that having Minute just is a necessity for our operations. So get with Minute, go to the link in the show notes, let them know that Will from Slick Talk sent you. They'll give you a sweet deal. And of course, you know the drill. We're back to the episode, and I hope you enjoy. Let's jump into the stories of the week. First article we have Wall Street Journal. Maybe you're expecting too much from your Airbnb, and also kind of other side, guests want more. So, Brandy, I know you had a ton of thoughts before we hit record. I'm going to give you the
Yeah.
mic to go first.
I finally felt seen. Usually it's all about how, I don't know, crazy things that hosts are asking or whatever, but, I read this and it was like, yes, I felt very validated in some ways. And so really overall, it's saying that the expectations from guests are climbing, and that hosts, especially hosts, I think that have, like, just a couple of units, it's something that they're doing as a hobby, just a little extra stream of income. It's putting a lot of, a burden on them with kind of the expectations. And we've seen this, I think if you're in the STR LinkedIn bubble, you see this race around amenities. And so when it used to be, hey, we're just like, here's your clean 3-bedroom home for your vacation. Now it's like, do you have a pickleball court? Do you have a little vintage video arcade? Like, what are you doing to be super special? And, the article says that there's a woman who rents out her own home. She doesn't have kids, but she like stocked it with games. And then people were complaining that there weren't enough things to do. And, one that I saw about TVs, like people used to have just one TV in the
Mhm.
living room. We've always said you need a TV in every bedroom. And that's been something that we do consistently across our properties. But like, is your TV big enough? And I think that I totally understand the pain from the hosts that are interviewed in this article because they're saying, it used to be people were renting my home knowing that it was my home, but now there is this expectation of kind of like hotel like amenities or over the top amenities. And, it's just not realistic, especially I think maybe for smaller hosts who this isn't like a business for them. And, they also mentioned that budget travelers have the highest expectations, and I would say that, like, some people are paying, not that much a night and are like, I have some, like, outrageous demands. We just had someone, request for us to switch out the bed frame of a new bed, and we're like, "It's not, we're that's not gonna happen." You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
unless it's broken, yeah, we're not going to get you a new bed. So, I feel the pain.
Well, so my thoughts from this were interesting because I think there's two things. Setting expectations. I don't think we've done that enough as an industry. And the reason why is because as these categories like budget, economy, mid scale, upper scale, all these like whatever definition or terms you want to call these categories, as they're getting more, I feel like they're getting more and more defined right now. Like, I feel like they're getting talked about more and more in Air DNA reports or in other industry data reports and all these things, right? Like, super more important than it was probably pre COVID. And I think as that's happening, we're seeing that expectation level not being met or communicated with because everyone just thinks, oh, I need to have hotel standards. Well, hotels also have different standards upon those different categories. So it's not, the same copy and paste method, but I do think on the industry side, we're not setting expectations or at least communicating expectations properly according to our listings or our inventory types. Hence why you have some people in the industry on LinkedIn who are complaining about all like you need to stop telling people this industry is easy, which we don't, because they have 58% of their inventory being budget, which is the hardest category to be in because they want everything under the moon as if they're paying $750 a night when they're only paying 180 or two or less. So that's my thoughts. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think what you're leaning towards, Will, is branding, and we've talked on the show a lot about branding. Branding is what provides the consistency.
Consistency and
The
setting expectations in my head are a little bit different, but yes, I understand where you're coming from.
As long as the brands and short-term rentals are Airbnb, Vrbo, and Booking, there's never going to be that consistency. It's just too hard for them to do. That's like saying, if you strip out all of the hotel brands on Expedia and just like call all them different names, you don't know what you're booking if it's this, that, or the other, except based on price and a couple of photos. So yes, communication and people understanding what's included, but nobody reads the listings. You can communicate fantastic, but no one's reading that. And if they do, they're reading it because they're at the door trying to figure out how to get in because they haven't read anything and they might have missed two steps along the way. But the flip side of this is the four C's. So I just came up with this. So hopefully I remember all four C's. Uh, a guest expects it to be clean, to be communicated to be comfortable, and yes, to have coffee. So if you don't have those basics, that's what you get in a hotel. It's clean. You know it's going to be clean. Not always, I guess. It should always be clean. It's going to always be comfortable enough based on your price point. Whether you need to communicate digitally or someone at the front desk, there is communication. And I haven't been to a hotel room, even on the low end, low scale, budget scale, that didn't have coffee. So that's kind of the table stakes for me for any rental.
Well, I think the point for this article isn't about like the basic standards. It's saying that, across they have people from different parts of the country that have been hosts for a long time and they've seen this shift of like doing kind of what was the basics for a while is now no longer like acceptable. And they're saying, well, hey, you're only paying $80 a night. Like it's not going to be you're not gonna have all these crazy extra amenities. And, ev this idea that every Airbnb is going to be Instagram worthy. It's kind of this, I think we've also encountered this with these expectations of the difference like of people coming with hotel expectations. And, we have gotten some comments like, "Oh, there's no like, well, you can pay for a mid-stay clean, but people are expecting daily cleaning and towel service, and that's not what this is." And so it is this what this really signaled to me was that this kind of consumer education is so blended and messed up because people don't want to pay to stay at the Four Seasons or the Standard or whatever, and they want to pay their cheap rate, and then they want that same quality. And I think it's kind of like the one of the sides of Airbnb's incredible PR and marketing machine is that Airbnb has created this feeling that every Airbnb you stay at should be this mind-blowing, unique property when sometimes you're just getting a place to stay and that is the price that you're paying for. So I just think that this is showing that the consumer expectations and even like to your point, branding, it's all just getting very jumbled up.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I also think the one thing I kind of didn't like about this article, though, it feels like it kind of puts the guests and the host or guests and operators against each other, which, in my opinion, this is hospitality. It doesn't matter what the sector is. It could be short term rentals, it could be restaurants, it could be hotels, right? Like we need to take care of our guests. And whether it's, yeah, maybe communicating higher, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that we don't have a fancy game room and a green photo wall for your bachelorette party because you paid $85 to stay at our condo that isn't really in a bachelorette destination. I'm so sorry." Like, like you can't I don't know, I just don't think it's, that's the one thing I'm not liking about the kind of either this article or in the industry on like the LinkedIn sphere is that it kind of just makes it like, "Oh, well, we're the host. We know exactly like we know this and you should know this too." Well, it's no, you have to educate them and also like kind of showcase your value for what they're paying for. I don't know. It's harder. It's not a full formed thought for me right now, but I just don't like the way the approach was on this article, putting people on. Go ahead.
I think that what really this comes down to for me is that hospitality and the service industry is a beatdown. It's expensive to and labor intensive to run and maintain these properties, in this example, to keep them current, all this stuff. And you have an ever changing consumer expectation on the other side. And so I agree that there's this continued kind of like pitting against of the guest and the operators in this case. But I think it just does highlight how difficult service is, whether you're working in a restaurant or you're
Mhm.
operating a hotel. Like it's just, it can be a bit of a beatdown. And I think that's why you have people feeling a little bit of animosity towards these high expectations, especially from people who aren't paying a lot, because it's very demanding on that side.
Yeah,
Like the guest just shows up, right? And so I think that that's where this friction is coming from.
makes
And
sense.
what Horst Schulze taught us a few weeks ago was it's those moments that you can actually create that special hospitality moment
Mhm.
where a guest might be upset that you don't have enough games for us to play. And then, somebody drops off a cornhole set or something, right? Like they went out of their way and did this. And, we spent the next 4 hours drinking beer, playing cornhole, right? Whatever it is. But those are the moments that you can turn a negative review into a positive one.
Mhm.
But I get it when it's just over and over again and you're just beat down by guests that are demanding more than what they're paying for.
Yeah.
Um, Give me a new bed. It's like, yeah, they're, $1,000. I'm happy to go get you one. We'll just bill you,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah, it's like,
uh,
and I was like, "This is a new bed." But, it also this, taking when this guest had a whole lot of other personal things that were happening that we had known about, and I was like, "So approach this sensitively, like, deny the request, like, we're not going to do that, but also don't be like, come at it with a place of, like,
Yeah.
compassion." So, but
Well,
yeah, that's, we have a couple other really juicy things to get to,
yeah.
including things happening in New York City.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I was also gonna say before we go on to that, it's like probably why a lot of people are moving to AI now because they're so tired and they're so beat down in the industry. So could be another reason why AI is taking over. All right. As Brandy said, New York City. It's been a year since local law 18 has been in place. AirDNA came up with an amazing article blog that we'll put in the show notes about the aftermath of New York short-term rental crackdown. So, Michael, let's go to you. What do you got? What are your thoughts? People want to hear. All right, I'm back. Sorry to interrupt, but you have to hear about our partners and friends at Hostfully. Not only are they an amazing property management software, they're an amazing team. I've been friends and partners with Hostfully for over 4 years now, and it's been an amazing 4 years. I can't complain because as I continue to grow my business with our property management company, they continue to update and grow their products and features within the Hostfully platform, and it just gets better over time. So, with us, we have a unified inbox. We have amazing marketplace, not only for the rest of our tech stack to integrate, which is awesome because they work with so many people. But then the third piece is the distribution is built in. So you don't have to fully rely on a channel manager. You can actually rely on the amazing integrations that Hostly has with Airbnb, Verbo, Booking.com, Marriott, Homes and Villas, you name it. They have what you need in order to get your inventory, your properties to the right people. It's kind of a no-brainer, but I'm going to tell you this anyways. You're going to get a special deal with Hostfully with the link in the show notes. You'll just have to let them know if you love the product and then just tell them that we'll send you. So that way you can get that amazing Slick Talk deal. And of course, we're back to the episode. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy.
I mean, no surprise, right?
Yeah.
You ban it and the market goes down and people go elsewhere. I think the interesting thing is they are starting to ramp it up, which is good. It's positive. Um, a lot of times government is just too much of a knee jerk reaction. There is no plan in place, and that was very evident in New York. But at least the numbers have grown somewhat. Um, is there good affordable accommodations in all of the boroughs? I think that's part of uh, where some of the arguments might arise more readily. And the the biggest challenge in New York is the hotel lobby is so damn strong, probably stronger than any other market out there. And that's just going to be a constant battle. Honestly, probably not one worth fighting. Just let them win there and then fight in every other market.
yeah. I,
Or let
when I so
Airbnb fight it. That's my yeah. Let them be the ones to spend all the
Exactly.
money. Yeah.
yes, like, use that war chest.
Yeah, that
But
amazing cash flow that you guys have.
yeah. Um, but I think so the Skift article that went along with this, and used a lot of the Air DNA report, I thought, reading through it and kind of thinking about it, you have a lot of anecdotal evidence, right? Some stories from people that were really relying upon Airbnb or Verbo to, supplement their mortgage or whatever. But there is just some real serious, like, it's not fear mongering, but it's just political pandering, from one of the council members saying, like, "It's good to see all of these gone," and I'm paraphrasing, "because when I see the, tens of thousands of children that are homeless in New York, like, makes me, like, irate that these short-term rentals are existing." And it's like, those children are not going to those short-term rentals. Like, the homeless, the homelessness problem or child poverty, that is not because of short-term rentals, and but it's such a nice soundbite. So I think if you read that and you're like, "Oh, so did all of those kids get rehoused in these apartments?" And it didn't bring down the cost of rent, and because some of those returned to long term, but that's not going to offset all of the demand. I mean, New York City just has it's a housing problem. They don't have enough supply either way. And then, as you mentioned, like outside of different boroughs, outside of Manhattan, there aren't a lot of hotel options. And so this is where those boroughs were particularly hit because now there aren't people were relying on those for a long time for income, those areas. And then also if you want to stay in those areas, now you might not have an option.
Yeah, the great point that I heard at the Verbo Live here in Colorado that I went to, and Tim Rizzolio was on stage, talking about, just because a home or a piece of property becomes available, say, primary residence isn't there anymore and they want to put a short, doesn't make it affordable. So those 10, the homeless kids, right? Like, okay, so what? You ban STRs. Great. Now all these places are vacant. There's no long-term tenants because the prices are way too expensive. With the price of inflation going up, it's not affordable, like at all. So just because it's available doesn't mean it's actually
Fewer
going to
fewer
actually do
guests
anything.
come
Yeah,
paying taxes, eating local business food, paying taxes, and,
yeah,
like, city revenue goes down as a result. So,
yeah,
yeah, sometimes you just need some idiots to pass some stupid law that ends up giving you data that shows these houses don't contribute to affordable housing, and they don't contribute to the amount of people that, the amount of housing stock that's needed in the city. And, good for New York City for uh, being the test dummy, and I mean dummy in the most literal sense. So, I'm excited that they jumped on that one for the whole industry, and now everybody around the world has somewhere to point to that says, "Look, exactly what Rosolio said.
yeah,
This actually isn't eating into housing stock.
hmm,
It is something that is completely separate."
yeah,
And I they also it also points, and I think we talk a lot about this, like, some regulation is good, having, a system where you register your short-term rental and you pay your taxes and all of that, but then making a system so cumbersome or just inept that it's impossible to use, that also you need to, as we've talked about before, like, have the system set up and then pass this law, and then there's a clear way for people who are doing things above board to apply
yeah.
and get their permits. And I think, New York is like obviously, like, it's such a big city, like, this is a big example, but this is very in line with conversations we were having earlier this year about what was happening in states like Colorado, for example.
100% could have said it better myself. And I was thinking about an episode I did with Matt Curtis on Slick Talk, and just the one thing too from the Skift STR summit that Matt was on stage with, the mayor of, I think, I forget the city in South Carolina, but talking about cities haven't changed in over 60 years on how they actually deal with housing. They don't build, they don't do any new real stuff. Like, they haven't changed in over 60 years. That's the issue. It's the city. It's not, yeah, just like the inventory issue, right? Like, just because it's open doesn't mean it's actually affordable. No one's growing. They're not expanding their city. They're not actually developing things, or even looking at future growth and how they can actually use taxpayers' money in order to kind of build the actual low income housing or affordable housing that you need in order to get those kids off the street, or to make price first time home buyers prices cheaper and affordable that they can actually get their first home. Um, yeah, there's a lot of great nuggets that Matt gave in that episode, but it was just really interesting to see all the anti arguments against the affordable housing issue compared to that's what everyone's argument is on the other side, right? Like, oh well, houses aren't affordable because short term rentals, right? No,
Well,
but
we've heard this argument for a decade. So I'm glad no one ever wants to be the first. I'm glad New York was the first,
yeah,
and now we can all point to its failure. And right now, quite frankly, it comes down to not Verbo, but it comes down to Airbnb because Verbo doesn't really even operate in New York.
yeah,
It comes down to Airbnb fighting this fight in a very public, shaming way to New York City to discourage anyone else from tackling a similar model. And Barcelona, was the next one that we've seen and we've talked about on the show that wants an outright ban by 2030 or something. But
yeah.
now they've got 6 years to look at how New York's has gone and how it hasn't really changed or affected housing stock.
Well, I also think we have to give in any of these areas also a little bit more time because where New York isn't a great example is that it's going to continue. It will always be an incredibly popular tourist destination, right? And so I think other example, I mean Barcelona, in a decade we can see what's happening there, but and if there are, like we took a ski town in Colorado, if they passed a really crazy restrictive ban that is akin to this, that is very much dependent on that kind of income, people coming to hike or coming to ski. So that's where you can probably more acutely feel. Or if we took New York and just looked at Brooklyn, for example. So it's like seeing how this plays out, like you said, over the next couple of years and using it as a kind of a warning sign for how this can go wrong.
100%. So make sure to tune in 2030 to see how the Barcelona regulation goes, and we'll make sure to bring that broadcast. But on a serious note, I actually got a email from the Mile High host in Denver, Colorado, because after the Verbo Live, there was actually a special session at the Capitol here in Colorado, and thankfully, there's no new short-term rental kind of proposals on the docket. So that was great, but they do expect the general session to be a busy year for short-term rentals as the recent bill got declined for the taxing of short-term rental properties to be commercialized tax rather than residential. So stay tuned for that if you're a Colorado listener. But let's move on to our next story to keep it within this 30-minute period here. We got a fun one that Michael sent over about Expedia's business, B2B partnerships, defends it to its, board and shareholders because they feel like maybe it's cannibalizing their consumer business. So, Michael, you had a lot of thoughts, a lot of passion behind this article and topic. I'm pretty similar to you, I think, on this one, but share us your thoughts. Then we'll go to Brandy.
Yeah, I love white labeling or B2B solutions where other people that have lots of eyeballs can sell your product. Makes total sense. It cuts down on marketing costs. So whatever rev share you have to give up or decrease in cost, or profit rather, is offset by the billions of dollars that you would have spent getting that same customer on Google. And so it looks like Expedia's B2B business line was $25 billion. It's a massive amount of cash flow. They power American Express, they power Delta, they power Marriott Vacations, they power Walmart, and 60,000 other partners. So I think the more the entire economy is right now is just a race for eyeballs. And the more you can get your product sold through everyone else that's trying to gather those eyeballs, the better.
Mhm.
Booking has this strategy as well. I'm quite frankly shocked Airbnb doesn't, but I think Airbnb loves and controls their brand so much they don't want to dilute it. I would venture to guess on that episode in 2030, we'll see that Airbnb has something similar,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's coming anytime soon. So
Michael
I,
already
I
pulling out the
love this.
predictions. I like it.
I love this line of business. It makes total sense. And it makes total sense for the deltas of the world that can get a
Yeah.
commission for booking a hotel right after you book a flight. Cause I don't know about y'all. I almost always book my flight first. and coming after that is where I want to stay. So some of those things make total sense. And Delta's not going to go out and sign up 5 million hotels worldwide and now vacation rentals because you can get Verbo through Delta as well. So,
Yeah, I mean, some of the brands, like the big ones that we've mentioned, like Amex, Chase, Delta, those people are very, very loyal to that brand. And I even think, I mean, this is obviously anecdotal, but like if I'm going to go look for travel spending, like I'm probably not going to Expedia before I'll go look at my Chase travel, things like that. And you can just kind of do everything within an ecosystem that you've been like earning those points. I think it makes total sense. And I mean, I don't know the numbers in comparison to other OTAs, but they seem to be leading this. So, I think I guess I was confused when I saw the title before I read the article, that they had to defend their B2B partnerships. And I understand the cannibalization side, but I was like, $25 billion
Yeah.
business vertical seems pretty great
and growing
Yeah.
and
and
growing.
growing. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they barely, hit the tip of the iceberg on this one. But my initial thoughts when reading this article, I didn't get to the full conclusion at the end, but talking about B2B, hard, but not as hard as B2C. B2C is very, very hard. And in my opinion, I think from Expedia's standpoint, when you're dealing with consumers and travelers, there's probably obviously a lot more labor. There's a lot more higher volume of refunds and comps and discounts and all these things that go into that consumer behavior of purchasing, especially travel products or services. So the B2B model is obviously like, okay, great. It can sustain a long-term profit that can cover any loss covered from B2C or whatever. But one thing, maybe this is a good opportunity for me to publicly apologize to Hopper because in the beginning, when I was talking a lot of crap about them, I wasn't very impressed with their B2C, but they've actually kind of pivoted to B2B and are using their software to now power travel products and other things like that on the B2B side and becoming a bit more sustainable. So for me,
Wow.
yep,
A
yep.
public
A
apology.
public apology, I know. But it made me think and I was like, look, the B2B side, obviously like business is hard in general, but it's not as hard as B2C. B2C, you're dealing with way more chaos than you are in the B2B world, in my opinion. So I think Hopper made a great move by doing that pivot. And then have another thing, speaking of all in podcasts in the beginning of the episode, I was listening to the recent, I think like a week or two ago, where they're talking about, the DOJ is trying to dismantle Google, right? Because Google's too big, right? They're anti-success rather than anti-competition, in my opinion. And they're trying to dismantle Google and break up, search, Android, YouTube, all these products and services because of that. And maybe Expedia or these bigger OTAs as they get to this huge number, $25 billion in revenue on their B2B side, it might actually be smart if they look at kind of breaking the companies off to avoid shareholder and kind of government regulatory issues in the future. Just a thought.
We'll see. Stay tuned for the 2030, uh,
Yeah, we're gonna have it
projections.
cover a lot
Well,
in about 6 years, so it's gonna be fun.
and I mean, on this, the CAGR on EBITDA is up 28%
Yeah,
year over year. So since 2018. So a massively long sustained growth of this business line. It's paying off. I don't, to your point, Hopper going the B2B route. I know Booking's got a pretty robust system as well. Kind of surprising Airbnb doesn't, but they will at some point, I would imagine. Um, and then it's a race for eyeballs,
hmm,
and you can't always be competing for the same eyeballs over and over again. That gets more and more expensive. So I love it. Now, the flip side is, can they get disintermediated? Yes. In fact, Expedia used to power Hopper.
hmm.
So their
Mhm.
Expedia's B2B powered Hopper's B2B until I guess one or the other cut them off. But like,
I think
if you get too
Expedia publicly broke up with Hopper.
if you get too big, then you can get cut off.
Mhm.
So, someone like Delta might have it in their 10-year plan to go sign up a million hotels and offer those through Delta. I mean, you could really do that by going to the big five flags and just kind of offer those.
Mhm.
So
Oh, but think about the back end build out. Like, why spend that kind of money when you can just
I'm
plug and play?
I mean, there's 25 billion reasons.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
that's true.
say 25 billion plus their credit card businesses and all those other services and products that they have on the back end outside of the actual flight itself. Uh, Baggage
Yeah, in
fees.
my next life, I wanna come back as a credit card processor.
Yeah, same. If I could just come back as Visa, I'd be happy. But
We get 2% of everything
seriously,
everywhere
Yep,
all the
all the
time.
all the
time.
time.
I set it up
What a s
and I forget it and I just take baths in my money.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I
and
couldn't
from
hear
time to
you with
time,
all
I
this
pay out
money
on
in my
spot.
ear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Well, this was a fun episode. Anything exciting outside of me and Michael being in Texas for the soft opening of Wimberley? Brandy?
No, I have my final wedding of the year
Oh,
is
thank
next
God.
weekend, so
The wedding
it's
tour.
my sister's wedding, so I'm excited about I mean, I've been excited about all of them, but this is like a nice family event,
It's a grand
so
finale.
it's a grand finale.
I like it. That's a good one to end on.
Grand Canale.
Yeah, I'll be with, our, number 1 listener, my grandma B will be at this wedding, so she'll actually be at the next recording. Oh, no, she won't, she'll be so sad, but this is her shout out, this is her participation.
Yeah. We love you, Grandma
Tell
B.
her
Thanks
tell
for
her what's
listening.
up.
What's up?
I will.
Well, we'll send her a special video at the end. Be like, hey, we know you're
Yeah.
missing your episode, but we love you. Have fun. All right. Well, thank you for the listeners who came in, tuned in, for the live viewers who thought we were live but found out that we weren't. We're sorry, but super meta of us to make you think we were at least live. And for everybody else, we hope you have a great week and stay tuned for our Europe crew, our hotel crew. Actually, I probably should make that quick little announcement. For those who do listen to the hotel crew, they're not actually going live on the 11th of September. They're going to go live on the 12th due to travel schedules. Just an FYI, we know we get a lot of live listeners on that one. So, anyways, stay tuned till next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to our show partners for making Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, possible. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we would love to connect with you outside of the podcast. So you can follow us on all of our social media channels for daily hospitality content, or find us on slicktalkthepodcast.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and we will see you guys all again next week.